September 8th, 2025, Guadalajara, Mexico, San Felipe Cathedral, 9:03 a.m. The cathedral's massive doors opened to the morning sun, flooding centuries-old stone with pale light. Hundreds of faithful moved inside, folding their hands in prayer, whispering morning devotions. Father Thomas O'Reilly, 49, adjusted his green vestments and walked along the central aisle, preparing for the feast day Mass of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Outside, street vendors sold candles and miniature statues of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Children darted between the legs of passers-by, their laughter blending with the distant sounds of car horns from Guadalajara's bustling streets. Inside, the air smelled faintly of incense and old wood, a warm, familiar scent that had comforted generations of parishioners. Among the kneeling, praying, and crossing themselves, no one noticed the man near the entrance. Jason Clark, 36, born in New South Wales, Australia, stood still in a dark jacket, his hands hidden beneath the folds. His jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the priest with a quiet intensity. Beneath his jacket, cold steel pressed against his ribs. Father Thomas moved with practiced ritualism, blessing the altar, checking the candles, acknowledging servers with nods. The organ hummed softly, warming up for the hymn that would signal the start of Mass. Inside the cathedral, 750 people had gathered that morning, a standard crowd for a feast day, though the tension in the air was unnoticed by most. Jason began moving forward just as the choir reached the opening verses of Ave Maria. His steps were small but deliberate, his gaze fixed on Father Thomas. The congregation was absorbed in the ancient rhythm, opening prayers, readings, responses memorized over decades. None sensed the storm approaching. The homily began. Father Thomas spoke calmly about mercy, forgiveness, and loving one's enemies. His voice echoed gently, filled with warmth and authority. He had no idea that in precisely 3 minutes and 17 seconds, every word he spoke would be tested in the most extreme way imaginable. Jason reached the third pew. The Eucharistic prayer was near, the most sacred moment. Father Thomas lifted the chalice, his lips moving the consecration in measured Latin. The congregation knelt, heads bowed, hearts focused. The moment seemed eternal. Then, the sound of footsteps. Heavy, fast. The dark jacket swung open as Jason broke into a run. A flash of steel reflected the morning light, an 8-inch blade purchased 3 days earlier. His face twisted with rage, but beneath it was something deeper. Pain, grief, anger that had nothing to do with the priest in front of him. Screams erupted. The air inside the cathedral seemed to stop. Father Thomas froze, holding the consecrated host aloft, eyes wide. 2 men in the front row tried to intervene. Roberto Delgado, a former security officer, and Marco Ruiz, a taxi driver, lunged forward. But Jason's momentum carried him forward faster than they could react. As he swung the blade, the world seemed to shift. Witnesses later described a sudden chill, as if the air itself held its breath. Lights flickered. Some went dark. The high hum of the sound system pierced the ears. And then, Jason stopped, mid-strike, motionless, his body frozen in a way that defied explanation. Father Thomas lowered the host slowly, his hands trembling, not with fear, but sorrow. His eyes met Jason's. No anger, no panic, only profound sadness that seemed to weigh decades in an instant. Outside the motionless figure, the cathedral remained silent. That impossible silence, complete, tangible, almost audible, stretched through every pew. For those watching, it was as if time had fractured, and all that existed was that one impossible moment. The light changed, slowly, softly, golden, radiant, emanating from the statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe behind the altar. It spread, not harshly, but like dawn brushing the walls, filling the cathedral with a warmth that seemed alive. Jason Clark remained frozen. The blade hung in midair. Witnesses would later describe the sensation differently. Some felt peace, some fear, some awe. But the core reality remained the same. Something beyond comprehension had entered San Felipe Cathedral that morning, and nothing would ever be the same again. Jason Clark remained frozen mid-step, the blade suspended inches from Father Thomas's chest. The cathedral held a silence so complete it pressed against the eardrums, thick and almost visible. Then, slowly, a soft golden glow began to radiate from the statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe perched above the altar. The light was warm, yet not sunlight. It moved like liquid, seeping into the shadows of the cathedral, caressing the carved wooden pews, gliding across the faces of the kneeling faithful. Witnesses later described feeling it not just with their eyes, but with their entire bodies. A sensation of being embraced by something alive, something merciful. Jason's body trembled, not his whole form, but hands first, then shoulders, as if some invisible force had reached into him and paused every fiber of his being. The blade hung impossibly suspended, vibrating faintly, singing a high-pitched note that cut through the silence. His eyes widened in panic. He tried to step forward. Nothing. He tried to pull the knife back. Frozen. Mouth opened. No sound. Father Thomas, still holding the consecrated host, dropped to his knees. Tears ran down his face, mixing with sweat. He began to pray in Latin, Spanish, and English, words tumbling out with desperation, with hope, with faith older than the walls around him. The congregation watched, some still kneeling, others frozen mid-motion, caught in a moment outside of normal time. The golden light intensified. It wasn't harsh, it didn't burn, it didn't flicker like fire. It filled the cathedral like a tide, moving with deliberate grace. Witnesses later described it as aware, conscious, responding to the hearts of those present. Mrs. Rivera, clutching her rosary, felt warmth spread from her chest to her fingertips, tears streaming without her remembering when she had begun to cry. The statue itself seemed to move, not mechanically, not by human hand. The carved features softened, the painted eyes blinked. Wooden hands that had folded in prayer for decades slowly unfolded, rising toward Jason. The blue mantle rippled as if caught in a breeze that no one else could feel. Jason's knees buckled. He collapsed halfway to the floor, hands gripping marble, sobs ripping from his chest. Yet the figure in the golden light hovered before him, not with anger, not with judgment, but with profound, infinite sadness and love. She moved closer, gliding, not walking, defying gravity as naturally as the light that surrounded her. Her hand reached toward Jason's face. Time seemed to resist her motion, stretching seconds into eternity. When her fingers touched his cheek, his body convulsed. The knife slipped from his grip, clattering to the floor. The sound echoed like thunder in the stunned cathedral. The invisible force that had held him now dissipated, but he remained kneeling, trembling, sobbing, utterly transformed. Father Thomas remained on his knees, whispering prayers, overwhelmed by what he was witnessing. This was not merely survival. This was intervention, an encounter beyond human comprehension. The figure turned her gaze toward the congregation. Every person felt it personally, intimately, as if she were reading the burdens, the grief, and the guilt hidden in each heart. Mrs. Rivera later recounted hearing the voice of her deceased mother calling her name. Roberto Delgado, the former security officer, felt forgiveness for mistakes he had carried for 20 years. Marco Ruiz, the taxi driver, felt a peace he had never known. Father Thomas felt his calling affirmed, his doubts quelled, his mission made undeniable. The golden light receded gradually, retreating into itself like the tide. The statue resumed its original form, carved wood, painted blue and white, frozen in prayer. Nothing about it suggested movement. Nothing betrayed what had occurred. Yet every person present carried evidence that could not be measured, quantified, or photographed. Hearts transformed, souls touched, lives altered. Jason Clark remained kneeling, hands pressed against the marble floor, tears streaming, chest heaving. Rage, fear, and pain had been replaced by surrender, humility, and awe. For the first time in years, he spoke words of apology, to God, to Father Thomas, to the congregation, to the Virgin whose presence had saved him and others in the cathedral that morning. Outside the frame of the golden light, the cathedral remained a normal, sunlit building. The sounds of Guadalajara continued faintly beyond its doors. But inside, every second of those few minutes had stretched beyond the natural world. Every witness knew they had seen something impossible. And for those present, the morning of September 8th, 2025, would never end. News of the incident spread within minutes. Videos uploaded from 12 different phones reached social media platforms almost simultaneously. Within an hour, #Guadalupe Miracle trended globally. Mainstream media, from CNN to BBC, reported the event. Both believers and skeptics scrambled for footage, explanations, and interviews. Inside the cathedral, forensic and security teams began their work. Dr. Elena Vargas, a forensic specialist from the University of Guadalajara, led the examination of the statue. Using spectrometers, ultraviolet scans, and microscopic inspection, her team confirmed the statue remained wood, painted traditionally, with no evidence of mechanical alteration or biological material. The marble floors and pews showed no residue of unusual substances. Yet all 17 videos, captured from different angles and devices, consistently displayed the statue moving and the golden light interacting with the environment. Police were equally perplexed. Detective Carlos Morales oversaw the initial investigation. Statements were taken from all 47 witnesses. Minor discrepancies existed. Some recalled blue light, others gold. Some heard singing, others silence. But the core events were remarkably consistent. Jason Clark's actions were clearly premeditated. Receipts and surveillance confirmed he purchased the 8-inch carbon steel blade 3 days prior, alongside tools and duct tape. Intent was not in question. Medical teams examined Father Thomas. Vital signs stable, no injuries. Psychological evaluation showed shock and intense emotional response, but no trauma-induced impairment. Jason was evaluated by Dr. Ahmad Khalil, a psychologist with experience in violent extremism. Within minutes of the event, his aggressive, ideologically fueled mindset had been replaced by calm submission, a complete reversal that defied conventional psychological understanding. Personality restructuring of this magnitude, normally taking months of therapy, had occurred in seconds. Meanwhile, Cardinal Antonio Delgado of Guadalajara arrived at the cathedral on the morning of September 9th. At 11:15 a.m., he began interviewing witnesses. Father Thomas recounted the event with precision, actions, timing, light, and emotional impact. Mrs. Rivera described her experience in detail, including the physical sensation of warmth and the personal messages she felt she received. Roberto Delgado, the security officer, meticulously detailed the atmospheric changes. Each account was consistent with the videos, yet transcended measurable physics. The Vatican was immediately informed. Cardinal Giuseppe Romano, head of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, flew to Guadalajara within 48 hours. Known for investigating reported miracles worldwide, he analyzed the footage for signs of manipulation, deception, or fraud. He watched the 17 videos repeatedly, examined the original files, and interviewed all primary witnesses, including Father Thomas, Jason Clark, and multiple parishioners. No evidence of tampering was found. The visual phenomena, the suspended blade, the interaction of the golden light, and the apparent statue movement remained unexplained. Media attention was overwhelming. Journalists camped outside San Felipe Cathedral. Social media debates polarized communities. Skeptics cited hallucinations, mass delusion, or digital trickery. Believers called it proof of divine intervention. Online forums exploded with analysis of frames, light behavior, and witness testimonies. Experts in optics, physics, and neurology were consulted. Each offered explanations that ultimately fell short. The suspended blade in particular could not be accounted for by known magnetic, gravitational, or electromagnetic phenomena. Psychologists interviewed all witnesses using standardized tools: cognitive assessments, PTSD screening, reality testing. Everyone tested within normal ranges. No evidence of shared psychosis, mass hysteria, or suggestibility could explain the consistency and intensity of the experiences. Jason Clark's transformation remained the most striking. From a man driven by anger and radicalized ideology to one overwhelmed by humility and remorse, the shift was complete and permanent. By the afternoon, the cathedral had been closed for formal investigation. Police tape blocked entry. Forensic teams continued documenting the scene. Father Thomas, still emotionally shaken, sat quietly in the vestry, reflecting on what had transpired. He was aware this was more than a narrowly avoided attack. The event had revealed something beyond human comprehension, a force or presence that intervened directly in human affairs, changing the trajectory of one man's life and impacting all witnesses. Preliminary reports to the Vatican summarized the physical anomalies, testimonial evidence, and psychological evaluations. Cardinal Romano emphasized the need for continued observation and documentation. He noted that while physical evidence remained minimal, the cumulative impact on human lives, Jason Clark's transformation, Father Thomas's reinforced faith, and the witness experiences could not be ignored. By September 10th, coverage had gone international. Scholars of theology, psychology, and physics began analyzing the phenomenon. Articles appeared debating whether the event qualified as a miracle or a profound, unexplained phenomenon. Social media reached millions, but what remained consistent across all reports was the transformative effect the golden light had on Jason Clark and everyone who had been present. The investigation revealed one undeniable fact. Whatever had occurred within the walls of San Felipe Cathedral on the morning of September 8, 2025, it transcended known natural laws. The golden light, the suspension of violence, the personal impact on witnesses, these could not be explained scientifically, yet were consistently documented across multiple independent sources. For Jason Clark, Father Thomas, and the 47 witnesses, the event was no longer just a near-death experience. It was the beginning of a profound transformation. And for authorities, scientists, and theologians, it was a mystery that demanded careful, rigorous attention. By the morning of September 9th, San Felipe Cathedral had become the focal point of a global spiritual and media storm. Yellow police tape cordoned off the entrance, yet hundreds of people gathered outside, clutching rosaries, candles, and photos of loved ones. The air buzzed with anticipation, reverence, and curiosity. Pilgrims came not only from Mexico, but from across Latin America, the United States, and Europe. Inside the cathedral, forensic teams continued meticulous documentation. Dr. Elena Vargas confirmed the statue remained unaltered. The marble floors, pews, and altar bore no trace of unusual substances. Yet the footage from 17 different devices consistently showed movement, light, and phenomena impossible to explain. Each frame captured the suspended blade, the golden luminescence, and Jason Clark's transformation. Scientists, theologians, and psychologists alike convened to compare notes. Father Thomas returned to the cathedral for the first time since the incident. He was greeted by hushed awe from parishioners who had witnessed or heard of the events. Though unharmed physically, he carried an emotional weight heavier than any previous challenge in his 25 years of priesthood. The question lingered in his mind. Why him? Why had he been saved while countless others had faced violence? Cardinal Delgado reminded him that miracles were not rewards for worthiness. Sometimes grace occurs without reason. Yet the priest struggled with a deep spiritual disorientation. Jason Clark remained in police custody, but his demeanor had shifted dramatically. Where once he carried rage, fear, and ideologically driven purpose, he now exhibited calm, humility, and remorse. The transformation stunned psychologists and prison officials. Dr. Ahmad Khalil, who had first assessed him at the scene, noted that Jason's change was not superficial. His personality structure, coping mechanisms, and moral reasoning had been fundamentally altered. Radicalization, long considered a persistent psychological and social threat, had been reversed instantaneously. News coverage intensified. International media broadcast the videos repeatedly, accompanied by interviews, analysis, and debates. Skeptics labeled it mass delusion or digital trickery. Believers proclaimed divine intervention. Social media hashtags like #GuadalupeMiracle, #JasonClarkTransformation, and #SanFelipeLight trended worldwide. Academics dissected footage frame by frame, searching for technical or optical explanations. None sufficed. Within the local community, the impact was immediate and personal. Witnesses reported profound emotional and spiritual shifts. Mrs. Rivera, whose grandson had been gravely ill, found renewed hope and purpose. Roberto Delgado, the off-duty security officer who had tried to intervene, felt a calling to the seminary at age 43. Marco Ruiz, the taxi driver who had protected Jason, initiated a community outreach program supporting families affected by violence and radicalization. University student Maria Lopez, who had filmed part of the incident, pursued her theology degree, focusing her thesis on contemporary Marian apparitions and the psychological dimensions of divine intervention. The Vatican maintained a cautious but serious involvement. Cardinal Romano's preliminary report emphasized that the phenomena resisted natural explanation, that testimonial evidence was compelling, and that further observation and documentation were required. He noted that Jason Clark's transformation, while extraordinary, did not involve forced conversion. His Islamic faith remained intact, now expressed with peace and compassion instead of anger and radical ideology. The theological implications of this selective, non-coercive intervention fascinated the church hierarchy. Meanwhile, police and forensic teams continued interviews. Detective Carlos Morales documented every detail, emphasizing the consistency across witness accounts despite varying personal perceptions. Medical professionals confirmed that Father Thomas and Jason Clark were physically unharmed. Psychologists validated that all witnesses showed normal cognitive function, yet had undergone a profound, verifiable emotional and spiritual experience. Father Thomas began private reflections and journaling, attempting to reconcile the event with his theological understanding and pastoral responsibilities. His homilies shifted subtly but noticeably. Sermons emphasized mercy, compassion, and the transformative power of love. Some parishioners embraced the changes enthusiastically, while others felt challenged by the intensity and depth of his new approach. The diocesan office suggested counseling to help him process the trauma of witnessing violence and experiencing divine intervention firsthand. For Jason Clark, the period following the incident marked the start of a lifelong process of restitution, reflection, and spiritual growth. Though he faced legal consequences for the premeditated attack, his testimony and profound transformation influenced sentencing and rehabilitation plans. Programs were introduced to incorporate his experience into interfaith dialogue, violent extremism prevention, and community education. He became an unlikely ambassador of mercy, bridging faith communities and warning others about radicalization's allure and dangers. By September 15th, Guadalajara had entered an uneasy normalcy. Media attention remained high, yet the broader public began processing what had occurred. The cathedral remained closed to regular services, under continued investigation and observation. Yet within the walls, the people who had witnessed the golden light, the suspended blade, and the transformation of a human soul knew something profound had occurred. A moment where human violence was stopped, rage dissolved, and love intervened directly in the affairs of the living. The days following the event became a turning point for every life touched by the morning of September 8th. Jason Clark, now fully transformed, faced his trial for attempted murder. In court, his demeanor was calm, humble, and composed. He confessed openly to his intentions, detailing the premeditation, the knife, and the ideology that had consumed him. But he also spoke of the moment the attack halted, the golden light, and the overwhelming compassion he felt. Father Thomas testified on his behalf, recounting the intervention and the change he had witnessed. His words were measured, factual, and deeply human, a priest acknowledging divine mercy while navigating the delicate balance between law and grace. The court acknowledged Jason's profound transformation as a mitigating factor. He received a 10-year sentence with the possibility of parole after 5, alongside mandatory psychological counseling and participation in interfaith and anti-radicalization programs. In prison, Jason became a model for rehabilitation. He mediated conflicts, taught compassion-based lessons, and led Quran classes emphasizing mercy and understanding. His story inspired inmates, many of whom were themselves vulnerable to extremist ideologies, to reconsider paths of violence. Psychologists and correctional officers alike noted his calm presence and the palpable influence it had on the prison population. Father Thomas returned to San Felipe Cathedral on October 1st. The church reopened for regular services, yet nothing felt ordinary. The priest carried the weight of what had occurred, a mix of awe, responsibility, and lingering spiritual questions. Why had he been spared? Why had grace chosen this moment, this place, and him? Through prayer, reflection, and mentorship from Cardinal Delgado, he accepted that divine intervention was not about deserving, but about presence and timing. The priest channeled his experience into ministry, creating quiet, patient programs aimed at guiding those leaving extremist ideologies, working closely with psychologists and community leaders. He visited Jason monthly, bridging faiths and fostering dialogue. Their relationship became a testament to the ripple effects of mercy. Two men from different worlds, bound by an impossible mourning, united in transformation and purpose. The 47 witnesses also experienced lasting change. Mrs. Rivera's grandson fully recovered, inspiring her to become a catechist, teaching children about forgiveness and divine mercy. Roberto Delgado, the security officer, enrolled in the seminary, feeling a calling he had never imagined. Marco Ruiz, the taxi driver, created outreach programs for families impacted by violence. Maria Lopez completed her theology degree, publishing her thesis on contemporary Marian apparitions, emphasizing the transformative power of mercy over documentation or proof. Dr. Elena Vargas and her scientific team published detailed reports on the cathedral, the statue, and the environmental conditions of the incident. Though physical evidence of the phenomena remained minimal, the consistency of multiple independent recordings and the psychological transformations were undeniable. Even the most skeptical scholars acknowledged the anomaly could not be explained by conventional science. The Vatican concluded its preliminary observation. Cardinal Josefi Romano's report emphasized phenomena that resisted natural explanation, compelling testimonial evidence, and the extraordinary psychological transformation of Jason Clark. The incident remained classified as unexplained, potentially miraculous, with continued observation recommended. The Church chose humility and patience, recognizing that some mysteries required time, discernment, and reflection. By the end of October, the global media storm had faded, but the impact continued, quietly, personally, and profoundly. Communities shifted, not through grand spectacle, but through individual lives touched by mercy. Islamic-Christian dialogue in Guadalajara deepened. Interfaith programs grew. Families, previously vulnerable to radicalization, found guidance and protection. Father Thomas wrote his reflections, later published in a modest Catholic press, titled September 8th, A Priest's Reflection on Mercy. The text embraced mystery, acknowledged unanswered questions, and encouraged readers to practice forgiveness, compassion, and faith in daily life. Jason read it in prison, writing 10 pages back, describing his continuing journey toward redemption, emphasizing gratitude not only for forgiveness, but for being witnessed and accepted fully. A small plaque was installed near the statue inside San Felipe Cathedral. September 8, 2025. Here, mercy triumphed. Simple and understated, yet deeply meaningful to those who understood. The plaque became a quiet symbol, reminding all that divine intervention was not about avoiding danger or ensuring life's ease, but about providing what was needed to transform hatred into compassion, rage into surrender, and fear into love. September 8, 2025 remained an impossible day, one moment in time that had reshaped multiple lives forever. Jason Clark's redemption, Father Thomas's deepened ministry, the community's awakening, and the global reflection on mercy demonstrated that miracles, whether understood or unexplained, create ripples far beyond a single event. The legacy of that morning continues, in acts of forgiveness, in interfaith understanding, and in every heart that chooses mercy over judgment. One impossible moment, still changing lives, still proving that grace, love, and forgiveness remain more powerful than fear, anger, and despair. June 12, 2026. Basilica of Our Lady of Lourdes, Lyon, France, 10:15 a.m. The basilica loomed over the square, its Gothic spires piercing the early morning mist. Pilgrims had begun to gather hours before the Mass, their footsteps echoing against centuries-old stone, voices muted by reverence. Some prayed quietly, others whispered intentions aloud, while a few simply sat in awe at the grandeur. Among them, a small boy, 10 years old, sat in the arms of his mother. Etienne Moreau's dark eyes scanned the basilica, taking in every detail, the flicker of candle flames, the shifting shadows cast by the sunlight streaming through stained glass. Etienne had been born deaf and mute. From infancy, his world had been silent, his expressions limited to gestures, his words trapped in his mind. Doctors had offered no hope of conventional hearing or speech. His parents, Claire and Philippe Moreau, had devoted their lives to supporting him, enrolling him in therapy, teaching sign language, and cultivating patience. Yet each attempt to unlock his voice had ended in quiet frustration. Today, they had journeyed to Lourdes as a final act of faith, hope, and desperation. Their pilgrimage was not merely tradition, it was a plea for something extraordinary, something beyond the reach of science or medicine. The basilica's interior was alive with soft murmurs, but to Etienne, the sound of the Mass was a rhythm he could sense rather than hear. The congregation knelt, shifted, crossed themselves. Candles burned at side altars, the faint smell of incense filling the air. Sunlight struck colored glass, sending splashes of ruby, sapphire, and emerald across the polished stone floor. For Etienne, these were symbols he could perceive and understand. Father Luke, 58 years old, moved through the pre-Mass rituals with steady hands and a calm demeanor. He had served the basilica for nearly 3 decades, witnessing countless prayers, pilgrimages, and devotions. Yet something about this morning carried a tension he could not explain. It was subtle, a pull in the air, a vibration beneath the marble that even he could feel. Etienne's mother guided him to the pew, then carefully lowered him to kneel. The boy pressed his small hands together, forehead against the cold stone. He did not understand fully what would happen, only that he needed to ask, to beg, to pour out every ounce of desire locked in his silent world. His eyes drifted upward to the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary, perched elegantly near the altar. Her hands were folded in prayer, her painted eyes serene. But today, Etienne felt as though she were looking directly at him, waiting. He extended his hands toward her, and, in the language of his heart, silently pleaded, "Please, let me speak. Let me hear. please." The basilica held its breath. Pilgrims went about their prayers, unaware that Etienne's plea had been heard in some way that transcended human perception. Yet a subtle change occurred. The temperature shifted slightly. The light in the room softened, golden rays seeming to concentrate around the statue. Father Luke paused mid-gesture, feeling a deep resonance, though he did not yet comprehend why. Then the air seemed to hum, not audibly, but in the chest, in the spine, a vibration that only Etienne fully registered. The golden light intensified, emanating softly from the statue. Other pilgrims glanced upward, sensing the unusual warmth and illumination, yet unsure whether their eyes deceived them. Etienne pressed harder against the marble, eyes never leaving Mary's figure. Then, impossibly, the statue moved. Her carved hands unfolded slowly, fluidly, impossibly. Her eyes, painted for decades, blinked. And then she stepped down from the pedestal, her movement silent yet commanding. A soft aura of golden light followed her, filling the basilica. Shadows shifted but did not distort. The marble seemed to glow beneath her presence. The boy's pulse raced. Though he could not speak, he felt a release building inside him, a force answering his silent plea. The statue knelt before him, eyes meeting his, and Etienne felt an incomprehensible warmth pressing into his chest. The world seemed to pause. Claire gasped, sensing something extraordinary. Philippe's hand trembled as he clutched his son. Around them, pilgrims began to murmur in awe, some kneeling, others frozen mid-motion. Father Luke, experiencing a combination of fear, reverence, and disbelief, lowered the consecrated host with trembling hands, knowing in his heart that this was no ordinary moment. Mary's figure placed her hand gently on Etienne's cheek. In that instant, a sound erupted from deep within him. "Mama!" Claire fell to her knees, tears streaming. Philippe held his son, sobbing openly. Etienne gasped, then spoke again, his words shaking but unmistakable. I can hear! I can hear!" Every sound of the basilica filled him instantly. The whisper of prayers, the rustle of robes, the distant chirp of birds outside, even the subtle hum of the organ. His body shook with the influx of sensory input, overwhelming but alive. Etienne's hands flew to his ears, marveling at the miraculous gifts finally granted to him. The statue's gaze remained gentle, her other hand now pressed over Etienne's chest, radiating warmth that steadied his emotions. She whispered, not with sound but with understanding, "Your voice and hearing are gifts. Use them in love and mercy." Etienne understood fully, though no one else could hear. The golden light slowly faded. Mary returned to her pedestal, carved features serene and still, yet imbued with a presence that lingered in the eyes of every witness. Etienne remained kneeling, crying, laughing, speaking, and hearing, all at once. Medical teams arrived hours later. Specialists confirmed what defied explanation. Etienne's hearing and speech were now fully functional, without any surgical intervention, neurological anomaly, or medical cause. Tests were repeated over the following days. Results were consistent. An authentic, unexplainable transformation had occurred. News spread rapidly. Witnesses uploaded shaky phone videos, and within hours, the story circulated across social media platforms worldwide. Religious scholars debated, scientists puzzled, journalists reported. But for the Moreaus, no debate mattered. Their son could hear their voices, express his own thoughts, and communicate freely for the first time in his life. In the days that followed, Etienne attended school for the first time as a fully hearing and speaking child. Teachers marveled at his progress, students were captivated by the story of his miraculous morning, and the boy learned to navigate a world of sound he had only imagined. Yet he remained humble, understanding that his life had been irrevocably changed by a moment of mercy and grace. Father Luke continued his ministry, guiding Etienne and his family, helping them to navigate this extraordinary gift responsibly. Pilgrims came from across Europe to see the basilica and the statue, some hoping for miracles of their own, others merely seeking a glimpse of the boy whose life had been transformed. Years later, Etienne returned to the basilica, now 12 years old. He knelt before Mary's statue, whispering prayers for children still unable to speak or hear, for those whose faith remained untested, and for those in desperate need of miracles. His voice was steady, his hearing acute, yet he spoke with a reverence that remembered the silence from which he had come. Claire and Philippe watched their son with quiet pride and awe. They understood that the miracle had not only transformed the Etienne, but also their family, their faith, and their understanding of what was possible in the human experience. Scientists continued to study the event. Dr. Helene Marchand, a neurologist from Lyon University, reviewed neurological scans, MRI results, and auditory processing tests. She concluded with humility: there was no conventional explanation for the sudden development of speech and hearing in a 10-year-old. The phenomenon defied current scientific understanding. The basilica installed a small plaque near Mary's statue. June 12, 2026. Here, mercy granted voice and hearing. Pilgrims, believers, and skeptics alike paused before it, reflecting on the power of faith and hope. Etienne's story inspired generations. Schools and parishes shared his testimony, emphasizing compassion, patience, and belief in the extraordinary. Pilgrims wrote letters recounting personal struggles and newfound hope, inspired by a child who had once lived in silence and darkness. By the time Etienne turned 15, he had become an articulate advocate for children with disabilities. He spoke publicly about faith, hope, and the transformative power of prayer. He visited hospitals, schools, and community centers, reminding children and families that miracles could happen, even when science or logic seemed to say otherwise. Father Luke, older now, reflected on that morning countless times. He often wondered why the miracle had occurred, why Etienne had been chosen. But he understood that faith was not about explanation. It was about witness, service, and living with the knowledge that sometimes the divine acts in ways beyond comprehension. For the Moreaus, the basilica became more than a pilgrimage site. It became a sacred memory, a place where silence had been replaced by sound, where longing had become expression, and where faith had opened a door into the impossible. Etienne's voice continued to echo, not just in the halls of the basilica, but in hearts across the world. A boy who had once been silent now spoke with clarity, compassion, and a profound awareness that every word carried the weight of a miracle. And so, the story of Etienne Moreau endured, a story of hope, faith, and divine mercy, a story reminding the world that miracles are not only for the extraordinary, they are for those with pure hearts, desperate hope, and unwavering faith. One morning, one statue, one boy, a voice found, a world transformed.